Good morning everybody, welcome to Chester Zoo. It's our first virtual zoo day of the newest lockdown. We're here at our red panda enclosure with the gorgeous Coda this morning. I don't know where you guys are, but here at the zoo it has been snowing this morning. Now that's absolutely fine for Coda. He is loving the cold weather. He's also absolutely loving the fruit that we've got for him today, so this is a nice treat for Coda. So out in the wild, Coda is naturally from cold places, and that's why he's not bothered too much about the cold weather today. So these guys are from places like China and Nepal, the eastern Himalayas. So they're used to snow, they're used to cold temperatures. You can tell that because of their gorgeous thick coats. So you can obviously see on Coda here, he's a very fluffy boy. So he's taking my gloves with him. He's very keen on his food, bless him. So yeah, you can see just kind of how fluffy Coda actually is here. He's a little bit wet this morning from the snow, but he has that lovely thick fur to keep him nice and toasty in pretty much any weather. Coda's probably one of the main animals at the zoo that is much happier in the snow than in the warm. So a lot of our animals here at the zoo, we have to worry about keeping their heaters on at this time of year, making sure they're nice and toasty. And with Coda, we have the opposite problem. In the summer, we get more concerned about him, and we have to think about ways to keep him cool. Now, as you can see at the moment, Coda is enjoying his pear. He's got some apple as well, and a couple of grapes too. So he's very, very keen on his fruit. Fruit is a treat for him though. So he gets fruit as part of his diet, but it's not the main bulk of his diet. So Coda's actually mainly a leaf eater, although he's technically an omnivore most of his diet. And when I say most, I mean up to 95, 98% even of his diet is normally made up of leaves. Bamboo leaves in particular, and that is why he is called a red panda. Well, he is actually the original panda. So red pandas were discovered before giant pandas, and the two aren't actually that closely related at all. So these guys are the original panda. They are, in my personal opinion, although I'm slightly biased, they are the best kind of panda. And when the giant panda was discovered, because these guys live in such similar habitats and they eat very similar things as well, obviously they both have mainly their diet made up of bamboo, they kind of went, oh, it's just a bigger version, isn't it? And less ginger. But that's not really the case. The red panda has its whole own little branch of the tree of life. So these guys really are very unique, and they're very special indeed. So here at the zoo, obviously we give these guys a variety of food. They do love their fruit. Coda is definitely a pudding before dinner kind of animal. He loves the fruit. It's nice and sugary. It's really exciting to him. And we can actually take advantage of this really nicely here at the zoo. Obviously, keeping these animals here in the zoo means we have to be able to look after them as well as we possibly can. Now we can take advantage of the fact that Coda loves his sweet things when we need to get medication into him. So for example, when we give Coda his wormer, which is just a routine thing to make sure he's nice and fit and healthy, we can pop it into a grape and he'll just eat it straight up. So it makes our life nice and easy, and it means we don't have to stress him out for any reasons that aren't necessary. Now we can also use these nice tasty treats when we are training Coda. Again, it's really useful for us with these guys here at the zoo to be able to do certain things with them voluntarily. We don't want to stress Coda out if we don't have to. So we can manipulate his love of apple and pear into getting him to sit on a set of scales completely voluntarily. We can get him to allow us to do health checks with him and all that kind of stuff. So it really helps us to look after Coda. Knowing what he likes is really helpful to us when we're looking after him. You can see him chomping away on that piece of pear, and as you watch him eat, you will notice he holds it in those lovely paws at the front. You may notice as well that those paws have some nice big chunky claws on them. So red pandas do have quite big sharp nails. This is to help them mostly when they're climbing. So they are what we call an arboreal species, which basically means they live in the trees. They explore up in the trees, but they'll also live mainly in there in terms of that's where they're going to nest and that's where they're going to sleep as well. Now this means that they need to be very secure and very comfortable when they're up in the trees. And those claws help to give them a bit of grip. They also have fur completely covering all of the pads of their feet. So again, that just adds that little extra bit of grip, especially on days like today where it might be a bit icy. Now what you might also be able to see as Coda does eat his food is that he has quite a nice set of teeth on him as well. So going back a little bit to what I was saying about these guys being omnivores, they will eat a variety of different things. Most of the time it is leaves. However, they eat fruit and berries in the wild as well. And they will occasionally eat small lizards, and they do eat meat as well. So not very often, but they will eat meat. So those help out with that. So these guys are technically slightly carnivorous. Now you notice on Coda here that he has these gorgeous striking markings, this beautiful coat. Now at the zoo, the markings on our red pandas are actually really helpful to us. So Coda here is 4.5 years old. He's not the only panda that we have here at the zoo. So Coda normally lives with his lovely girlfriend Nima. Nima is a slightly older lady than Coda, and when Coda first came in, we weren't 100% sure whether Coda was going to be able to woo her. She is definitely a sassy animal. She doesn't let Coda anywhere near her unless it's on her terms, but she obviously did let Coda near her for long enough to manage to breed. So this is really exciting for us here at the zoo. Coda has actually sired 2 different lots of cubs. So last year we had a set of twins. So we had 1 boy and 1 girl, and they were absolutely lovely. They were the first cubs that Coda had here with us at the zoo. We were very impressed with him for managing to tame Nima enough to get that to happen. So we were really actually quite surprised, but very excited when we had that first set of cubs. Now Coda and Nima did breed again last year, so we have another cub here at the zoo. That's a male cub, and he is absolutely lovely. Now mum and cub are currently off show at the minute, and that means that Coda is loving his bachelor life. So these guys are naturally solitary out in the wild unless it's breeding time. So Coda is happy on his own. There's no need to worry about him being lonely in here. He's absolutely loving it. He gets full reign of the entire enclosure. He can sit in any tree he wants to sit in without Nima coming and pushing him off the branch. So it's actually pretty lovely for him being on his own in here for the time being. No one bossing him about, because Nima is definitely bossy. Now what I was saying about these guys and their coats is obviously the markings. So I started to talk about the markings and how useful they are to us here at the zoo. Now that's actually because they can be a really good way to tell the difference between our pandas. So Coda here has gorgeous striking markings on his face. You can see that lovely face of his. And actually the main way that we tell the difference between Coda and Nima, besides their personalities, is actually the markings around their eyes. So if you have a good look at Coda, you will notice he has white above his eyes, but that white actually also goes below his eyes as well. So the way I always remember it is that he looks like he's wearing little Harry Potter glasses. So he's got a circle of white all the way around his eyes. Now Nima's slightly different in that the red goes right up to the bottom of her eye, so she just looks like she's wearing a little bit of white eyeshadow. So unfortunately, at the minute, out in the wild, he doesn't want a grape right now, he wants pear. Pear? Yeah, there we go, we're playing favourites now. So out in the wild, unfortunately, this gorgeous coat that the pandas have is actually one of the reasons that they're currently classified as endangered. No, we're really not interested in the grapes. So yeah, unfortunately red pandas are currently classed by the IUCN as endangered. There is estimated to be less than 10,000 adult animals. Now this is an estimate, you know, some people are saying that number potentially is closer to around 2,500. So there really are not very many of these guys left in the world. 10,000 sounds like a really big number to quite a lot of people, but it's a huge decline. So their numbers have actually halved in the last 20 years. So that's a really, really big difference. And these guys are unfortunately sometimes poached for that beautiful coat. So you can see how gorgeous their fur is. Unfortunately, over in some of the parts of the world that they're from, so places like China and Nepal, these guys are from the eastern Himalayas. Unfortunately, over in that part of the world, red is actually considered a lucky colour. So the fur from these guys is really in demand to make things like coats and hats. And I know that sounds absolutely horrendous to us, but it is an issue that these guys are facing, unfortunately. Poaching in general is an issue that these guys face. Obviously, a lot of animals do face that threat. And if it's not poaching for their coat, unfortunately it is poaching in regards to the pet trade. I'm sure all of you are sitting at home thinking just how gorgeous Coda is. He is absolutely lovely. We adore him here at the zoo, and I feel very, very lucky to see him every day. But they don't make good pets. And unfortunately, because they are so cute and lovely, people do want to have them in their homes. Now I can tell you first and foremost, these guys would not be very good in a house. They are incredibly messy, very dirty. They produce a lot of poo, unfortunately for me, but it does keep me busy, so I suppose I can't complain too much. They produce a lot of poo. They're quite destructive as well, and as I said before, they do like to live up in the trees, so it's really hard to replicate that in a home. So even though these pandas are absolutely beautiful, they definitely do belong out in the wild. I'm sure you agree with me there. We try our best to get these guys into a situation where they're not under threat anymore. So this is one of the really big important jobs that zoos do. We keep these guys here, so Coda and animals like him, so Nima as well, they live here so that we have a really nice safety population, just in case something does go even worse for them out in the wild. With so few numbers left, we really don't want to see species disappearing. I would absolutely hate to think that when I had children, red pandas wouldn't be in the world for them to experience anymore. So we try our best to keep them nice and safe here at the zoo, so that they can, oh lovely, thank you, so that they can breed, they can create a really lovely safety net population, and hopefully they don't disappear forever. So along with poaching, another threat that these guys do face out in the wild is currently habitat loss. The forests in the eastern Himalayas are being destroyed pretty rapidly, unfortunately, and that is partly due to population growth and people needing that land to build houses and things like that. It's also down to people using that land for farming, and there are many different reasons that the forest is getting thinner and more sporadic as well, which means that even if the habitat is there, it is often fragmented. So you get pandas that just can't reach each other because there are pockets of forest instead of this lovely, nice, continuous area for them to move through freely. So he's going to go and have a little climb now, it looks like. He'll show you just how nimble he actually is on those lovely branches. So we are really, really lucky here at Chester Zoo to have these guys with us. We're also really lucky that Chester Zoo has its own charity. A lot of you will probably already know this, but we have Act for Wildlife is the Chester Zoo's charity. And we are directly helping animals just like Coda out in the wild. It's one of the most important things that we do here at the zoo. We spend a lot of our time working with these animals directly, but we also have a huge team of conservation specialists who are working out in the wild with these animals, trying to make sure that they don't disappear forever. Now, this is one of the reasons that it's really hit us hard, this COVID crisis. Obviously, we miss seeing all of your lovely faces here at the zoo every day. But also there are a lot of partners that we have out in the wild, a lot of conservation programs that really rely on the funding that Chester Zoo offers them. So it's really important for us that we can still get, the funding to them, because we really want them to continue doing their absolutely amazing work. And we want to continue to be able to support that work as well here at the zoo. So there is actually a link in the description of this lovely Facebook Live that we're doing today. So if you do want to donate to the zoo, please do. It really helps us out here. It helps keep all of our animals happy and healthy on a daily basis here at the zoo, but it also helps all of our conservation efforts out in the wild as well. So that's really, really important for us here. So Coda looks like he has gone to curl up in a tree somewhere now. So he was showing off his agility nicely there as he went up there. But what he'll do now is he'll probably find a nice sturdy branch, he'll curl up in a ball, wrap that lovely fluffy tail around him to keep him warm, and have a snooze for a few hours until he's hungry again enough to come down and see if I've left any pear anywhere in the enclosure. But what we're going to do is we're going to leave him to the middle of his day. Let him have a nice little chilled moment, and we are going to see you guys hopefully again at our Asian elephants. So elephants is at 11 o'clock this morning. I hope you've enjoyed meeting Coda, and I hope you enjoy seeing the elephants as well. So I've been Holly, one of our Twilight keepers. I realised I found his name more important than my own, but that's the way it should be. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have a fantastic day. I hope it snows for you guys as well. Thank you very much, and goodbye.